This is the way.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and The Mandalorian is coming back with Season 3. So this season is going to draw on years of Star Wars lore, from comics, movies, animated series, and books. So just in case you need a refresher, or you're learning all of this for the first time, we are here to recap everything you need to know before Mandalorian Season 3, the entire history of Mandalore. Centuries ago, the first humans arrived on Mandalore and encountered giant creatures called Mythosaurs. They not only fought them, but they tamed them and rode them around the planet. Mandalore was home to a rare metal called Beskar, which they began to forge into this powerful armor. This metal is so strong that it could repel blaster fire and lightsaber attacks. So the Mandalorians developed an adversarial relationship with the Jedi.
The songs of eons past tell of battles between Mandalore the Great and an order of sorcerers called Jedi.
Until, thousands of years ago, a Mandalorian was actually inducted into the Jedi Order. His name was Tar Vizsla. Remember that name, Vizsla. And he created a special lightsaber called the Dark Saber. Vizsla eventually left the Jedi Order and conquered Mandalore. And this was the first time that all the various Mandalorian warlords and clans were actually united. Vizsla was given the title of the Mandalore, or leader of all clans and houses. After Tar Vizsla died, his saber was kept in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. But after the Old Republic fell 1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, long story, Mandalorians sacked the Jedi Temple and reclaimed the saber. So without Tar Vizsla to unite them, the Mandalorians fought one another for centuries. Then, about 20 years before the Phantom Menace, a Mandalorian named Jaster Morrell became the new Mandalore and instituted reforms that were basically a code of conduct for Mandalorians to follow. A bad guy named Tor Vizsla, related to Tar Vizsla, led a group called Death Watch, who opposed these reforms and started another civil war. So Vizsla killed the family of a young boy named Jango Fett. So Jaster Morrell took Jango Fett in and made him a true Mandalorian, giving him armor and a place of honor in his guard. Eventually, Morrell was killed by Vizsla, Jango Fett killed Vizsla, and then he became a bounty hunter. And then a new peace movement broke out in Mandalore, led by Duchess Satine Kryze. So two Jedi, Qui-Gon Jinn and his Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi, were sent on a mission to protect her life. But she and Kenobi fell in love together, but sensibly never acted on their desires.
Had you said the word, I would have left the Jedi Order.
Now eventually this constant warring destroyed the planet's surface and created a vast, unlivable desert. So everybody moved into these giant air-conditioned dome cities and decided to give pacifism a shot. Death Watch, the armor-wearing, war-mongering Mandalorians, were exiled to the moon Concordia, where they lived in peace. Or did they? Now, in the meantime, Count Dooku secretly created a clone army for the Republic using Jango Fett's genes as a template. As payment, Jango wanted a son of his own so he could pass down the ways of the true Mandalorian. This son was named Boba Fett. And of course, Jango is beheaded by a Jedi, leaving his armor and ship behind for young Boba Fett. When the Clone Wars began, Duchess Satine, who ruled all of Mandalore, made sure that the planet stayed neutral, and Mandalore became the leader of several hundred other neutral systems. But then there was a terrorist bombing at an area called Peace Park. Obi-Wan Kenobi investigates so he and Satine can make googly eyes at each other. Eventually, they trace the bombing to Concordia, and then they find out that the moon's governor, Pre Vizsla, a descendant of Tar and Tor Vizsla, is actually the leader of a new, revitalized Death Watch.
For generations, my ancestors fought proudly as warriors against the Jedi.
Now he has the dark saber and believes that he should lead Mandalore back into their warrior ways. But Obi-Wan defeats him and Death Watch goes on the run. They have no allies, no base, and they want revenge against pretty much everybody. Pre Vizsla's #1 follower is Bo-Katan Kryze, the sister of Duchess Satine. Since Mandalore isn't allied with either side in the Clone Wars, they have a hard time getting supplies, such as tea for the school children.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
So the black market flourishes on the planet and the school children receive their tea, which was actually poison!
What?
An investigation uncovered that the Prime Minister of the planet, Almec, was behind the black market and was skimming off the top. The guy's a major jerkface. Okay, back to Death Watch. They're a little aimless, looking for a headquarters, striking at the Separatists wherever they can. And this is when they saved a young Din Djarin from Separatist battle droids in the Clone Wars. Din Djarin, like Jango Fett, becomes a foundling, a young person who is taught to follow the Mandalorian creed.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
But then Pre Vizsla meets Darth frickin' Maul. Yes, Darth Maul did survive his duel with Obi-Wan and got a pair of magic legs. Maul wants revenge on Darth Sidious, Dooku, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and all the Jedi, so he makes a deal with Death Watch to help them conquer Mandalore in exchange for some muscle. So then they go around the galaxy absorbing different crime syndicates into a new criminal organization that Maul calls the Shadow Collective, with Maul set up as the new kingpin. Now all through this, Bo-Katan does not trust Maul, especially after this.
Doubt will only lead to failure.
The Shadow Collective attacks Mandalore, and the pacifist Mandalorians are helpless. So Death Watch flies in to save the day, and then the people are like, pacifism sucks, we want you to rule us.
We need action, not pacifism.
So Pre Vizsla locks up Maul and the gangsters and Duchess Satine, but Maul escapes and challenges Vizsla for leadership of Death Watch and Mandalore, and of course, Maul wins. Darth Maul now rules Death Watch and Mandalore, and the Darksaber is his by rights. He installs Almec, that's the T Prime Minister, as a figurehead and uses Satine to lure Obi-Wan to the planet. So Bo-Katan, not happy with any of this. She leads her group called the Night Owls in another Mandalorian civil war against Darth Maul. Obi-Wan comes to rescue Satine, and Maul gets his revenge, killing her while Obi-Wan watches. So she ends up like another Satine who loved a character played by Ewan McGregor. Then Darth Sidious comes to Mandalore and captures Darth Maul. Maul escapes from his prison with the help of loyal Mandalorian followers like Gar Saxon. Afterwards, his Shadow Collective kind of falls apart, but some of the Mandalorians remain fiercely loyal to him. You can always tell when a Mandalorian was loyal to Darth Maul because they added spikes to their helmets. Maul and his loyal Mandalorians retake Mandalore in hopes of luring away Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, because Darth Maul senses how important Anakin is to the Emperor's plans. But instead, Anakin's former Padawan Ahsoka Tano has met up with the exile Bo-Katan and her captain, Ursa Wren. They convince Ahsoka to help them liberate Mandalore from Darth Maul. So Ahsoka, a few Republic forces, and Bo-Katan's Night Owls fight Maul's troops in the first siege of Mandalore. It's a long battle that ends with Maul's forces being defeated, Ahsoka taking down Maul, and the Republic occupying Mandalore. And side note, it is very likely that these members of Death Watch that were loyal to Darth Maul formed their own sect that ended up raising Din Djarin. I think that because the leader of the sect, the Armorer, has horns on her helmet. This group is no longer allowed to remove their helmets, and they live by a strict creed of honor.
This is the way. This is the way.
This is the way.
Bo-Katan is made regent of Mandalore, which is now part of the Republic. But like 2 hours later, the Republic became the Empire, and Bo-Katan is now a puppet figurehead ruled by a totalitarian state. So when the Empire rose, they eradicated the Jedi Order, sacking the Jedi Temple. One incredibly powerful Jedi Padawan, an infant named Grogu, escaped this purge and went into hiding for like years. Bo-Katan doesn't toe the Imperial line, and she's replaced with Maul's former follower, Gar Saxon. And because Mandalore is known for producing great warriors, the Empire builds an Imperial Academy on this planet. One young cadet was named Sabine Wren, the daughter of Ursa Wren, follower of Bo-Katan. Now, Sabine is a gifted engineer who designs a machine that eradicates Beskar armor. She realizes that this machine would be used against her own people, so she destroys the machine and joins the rebellion. Her family was dishonored when she betrayed the Empire, and they cast her out of their clan. Alright, so Darth Maul formed another criminal empire, which was destroyed, and he kind of fell on hard times. Sabine Wren eventually finds the Darksaber on his home planet, Dathomir. She's trained how to use it by a former Jedi named Kanan Jarrus, and then she returns to Mandalore and defeats Gar Saxon in a duel, and then he is killed by Sabine's mom. This has huge implications for Mandalorian politics because it means that House Wren has now betrayed Clan Saxon and that the Mandalorians are having a civil war again. Now Clan Saxon is being led by Gar's brother, Tiber Saxon, and he is all about doing whatever the Empire wants.
He's worse than the other one was.
Now another important figure during this time was named Finn Rau. Rau was a leader of the Mandalorian Protectors. These are the people who used to guard Duchess Satine. Great job, guys. So when the Empire took over, Gar and his protectors policed hyperspace routes for the Empire, until Gar Saxon killed all of his people, causing Rau to join the rebellion with Satine. Rau later sides with Clan Wren in this new Mandalorian civil war. So Sabine and her rebel friends go to Mandalore to help Ursa Wren and Bo-Katan overthrow Tiber Saxon and kick the Empire off the planet. But the Empire finished Sabine's weapon, you know, the one that can melt Beskar armor and decimate her entire race. So then Sabine programs the machine to destroy Stormtrooper armor instead, Tiber Saxon is killed, and the Imperial forces are decimated. Sabine gives the Darksaber to Bo-Katan so she can unite the clans.
For my clan, and for all of
Now, this seems like a happy ending, but the Empire struck back like they always do. They began a second siege of Mandalore in the Great Purge. They plundered the Beskar from the planet and scattered the Mandalorian diaspora across the galaxy. An Imperial Moff named Gideon defeated Bo-Katan in combat and won this Darksaber for himself, giving him all rights to rule Mandalore. Now, in the meantime, Boba Fett had become the galaxy's most feared bounty hunter before being thrown into a Sarlacc pit. Now, the rebels did eventually overthrow the Empire, scattering Imperials like Moff Gideon into the Outer Rim. They formed the New Republic, a weak government with a small military that largely left the Outer Rim alone. In the years after the Empire fell, Moff Gideon worked to initiate a secret plan of the Emperor's to clone his body in case of his death. In order to make a new body Force sensitive, he needed Grogu's genetic material. Din Djarin is now fully grown and a badass bounty hunter in his own right. He is sent to capture Grogu, but discovers that he likes the little guy.
We'll never know. No. We'll bring it in alive.
and instead the two of them go on the run from the Empire, making friends like this guy and her. Now on one bounty mission, Din hunts down a mercenary named Fennec Shand and leaves her for dead in the desert. This is when she's found by Boba Fett.
But you said he died.
Well, it turns out he survived his fall into the Sarlacc pit and then joined a tribe of local Tusken Raiders. After that village was slaughtered, Boba Fett realizes that he wanted to start running things himself, so he saved Fennec's life and she swore loyalty to him. Din also meets Bo-Katan and her Night Owls. Bo-Katan is on her own quest to rematch against Moff Gideon, win back the Darksaber, and unite the people of Mandalore and rule the planet. Din tells her,
"That planet is cursed."
and we are very much seeing two warring sides of Mandalorians with opposing ideologies. You'll notice that Bo-Katan removes her helmet.
You do not cover your face. You are not Mandalorian.
Now while he's on Tatooine, Din meets a sheriff named Cobb Vanth who wears Boba Fett's old armor to defend his town. Din helps him out of a jam and takes the armor as payment. While on Tatooine, Din also meets a garage owner named Peli who shows up from time to time.
Oh, thank the Force! This little thing has had me worried sick.
Now Din and his friends end up kicking the Empire off of the planet Navarro, even facing down Moff Gideon himself. Afterwards, Mando's handler Greef Karga becomes a magistrate of the planet and turns the place around. But the leader of Din's people gives him a new quest. She tells him that Grogu is a Jedi and that Din must return him to his people.
You have no choice. You must reunite it with its own kind.
Din eventually meets with Ahsoka Tano, who helped found the rebellion and is now on her own quest.
Where is Grand Admiral?
It doesn't matter. She tells Din to take Grogu to a Jedi shrine that will summon any Jedi who are left. The Empire ambushes Din at the shrine where they kidnap Grogu and destroy Din's ship. But he's rescued by Boba Fett and Fennec Shand. Boba recovers his armor and it's awesome. With the help of an ex-con and ex-stormtrooper named Miggs Mayfeld, Din discovers that Grogu is being held by Moff Gideon. So he, Bo-Katan, and friends rescue him, and Bo-Katan's only request is that she be able to face Gideon and win the Darksaber. But Din beats him instead, technically making him the rightful ruler of all of Mandalore and placing him at odds with Bo-Katan and her Night Owls. And then Luke Skywalker shows up to take Grogu away, and Din removes his helmet to show the child his face. In the meantime, Boba Fett takes over Jabba the Hutt's old criminal empire and builds a new criminal network on Tatooine to face off against the Pike Syndicate. Din, meanwhile, is struggling to use the Darksaber in combat.
You are fighting against the blade.
The Darksaber is not an easy weapon to use, as we also saw Sabine struggle to use it in Rebels.
4, 5, 6.
Now, because he removed his helmet in front of others, Din Djarin has now brought dishonor on his people.
Dishonor! Dishonor on your whole family!
So the armorer gives him a new quest.
According to Creed, one may only be redeemed in the living waters beneath the mines of Mandalore.
But first, Din wants to visit his little foundling at the new Jedi Temple. When he's there, Ahsoka tells him that, hey, that's a non-starter.
If he sees you, it will only make things more difficult for him.
Luke tries to train Grogu, but senses his attachment to Din, so he gives him a choice.
If you choose the armor, you'll return to your friend, the Mandalorian. But if you choose the lightsaber, you will be the first student in my academy, and I will train you to be a great Jedi.
So Din joins up with Boba Fett to retake Tatooine from the Pike Syndicate, and during this big, silly battle, we get the most emotional moment of the show.
Hey, what are you doing here?
So Din and Grogu leave to return to the barren wasteland of a planet and redeem the honor of the Mudhorn clan. But guys, that's everything you need to know before Mandalorian Season 3. If there's something I left out or if you have any questions, let us know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.